Fide.email, you don't need to compromise faith to participate in the modern world. Instead of pushing ads and invasive practices that conflict with Catholic values, we built Fide to reclaim technology for Christendom. When you use Fide.email, you declare your commitment to technology that defends Christian tradition. Join Fide.email today and use technology to advance Christendom.
When we talk about the bishops of Germany, some things come to mind. The German synodal way, for example, this clearly heterodox attempt to not only decentralize authority in the Catholic Church and put it in the hands of the laity, who would then be in charge of authorizing the bishops to consecrate bishops, and the laity would be given the authority to give to authorize a bishop to ordain priests, and would be given the authority to allow the seminaries to graduate seminarians. Yes, laity would be in charge of this, as well as in charge of parishes and all sorts of other things in Germany. We also typically think of the normalization of that sin that James Martin has an unhealthy interest in for a Catholic priest, or all sorts of other heretical things, women's ordination, married priests, whatever it is. Whatever progressive idea that's out there, the German bishops have grabbed onto. That's what usually comes to mind. And also with this, when it comes to the new Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV is brought up with the German bishops. As I've covered recently, they are not enthusiastic. They are on the same page with some of the more, we'll say, strident, harder line traditionalists who don't trust the Holy Father. They say many of the same things. Covered this last week in 2 separate videos. That's not all of the German bishops. There might actually be a sign of hope in once Catholic Germany that some of the bishops might actually have some sense of optimism and are hopeful that he will restore order, because his mission is apparently to restore unity in the church. And part of restoring unity is to restore order. As I mentioned in a live stream last week, if his mission is to restore unity, he can't, by definition, push the envelope on heretical ideas. He can't. Otherwise, he will cause greater division in the church. And I think at least one German bishop sees it the same way. We go here to EWTN, actually. This would be EWTN Vatican, a sub-website of the Vatican, or of EWTN, with this headline: German Cardinal un-American Pope. I didn't expect it, but sees hope for synodal clarity. Now, synodal clarity would be nice. What does synodality mean? That is the $64,000 question. Under Francis, with the heavy influence of the German bishops, synodality looked like a decentralization scheme for the Catholic Church. Again, putting authority into the hands of the laity, when in reality, the church is hierarchical by nature. It is not a democratic institution by any stretch of the imagination. It was never designed to be one by Jesus Christ himself. So why would you push things that seem to go against the commands of Christ and the way and the will of God, the way he designed things? That seems to be what we see happening in Germany anyway. They have no shame about this, and they have promised to continue on pushing for women's ordination, making the church fully bless and authorize James Martin's parody of holy matrimony and all the rest. But here's what this German cardinal has to say. Quote, Cardinal Rainier Maria Welke candidly confessed he didn't expect the election of Pope Leo XIV, praising the new pontiff's warmth and humanity while expressing hope for theological clarity concerning synodality. Speaking to EWTN News after attending the new Pope's first Mass in the Sistine Chapel on Friday, the German cardinal reflected on the conclave process that yielded the Church his 267th Pope. I entered the conclave with the different speculations that one could perceive in the media, Welke acknowledged. But it's usually the case that on the first evening, at the first vote, certain trends become visible, whether others have also discerned in prayer that this or that candidate might be the one called by the Lord. And that's how it turned out with regard to the current Holy Father. The Archbishop of Cologne expressed particular appreciation for the papal name choice, connecting it to previous pontiffs who addressed social challenges. I think it's wonderful that he chose this particular name, which besides Leo the Great, who naturally has special significance for Rome, also recalls Leo XIII with Rerum Novarum and its tremendous impact, Welke said. And I think given the divisions in the world, Including the social divisions we face, we depend on the Pope's voice. Just as we once relied on Leo XIII, today we rely on Leo XIV. Volke, who has faced controversies in his German archdiocese in recent years, highlighted qualities he finds reassuring in the new pontiff. What I associate most with Pope Leo is his approachability, his humanity, the cardinal stated. He radiates security. That is, I believe, something that is important and beneficial here in the Vatican and in this universe. Profound problems persist both globally and within the Church that will require papal attention, Volke observed. Among these challenges, he emphasized theological questions surrounding the concept of synodality, as developed during the previous pontificate. Major issues naturally include preserving the Church's unity and faith, the cardinal explained. Additionally, what Francis initiated must now be organized by him, Leo XIV, and theologically deepened, especially what Francis repeatedly understood as synodality, where, particularly in Germany, but I believe is also in other parts of the world, there remains considerable uncertainty about what synodality theologically really means for us. The Cologne cardinal also pointed to numerous international conflicts requiring papal leadership. Of course, there are major crises areas in the world, Volke added, from the Holy Land to Ukraine. In this context, the Pope has an important voice regarding peace, social justice, and where people are being exploited. Pope Leo XIV, former Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost from the U.S., was elected May 8th, becoming the first U.S.-born pontiff in the Church's history. And as you can see, one sign of hope coming from a German cardinal is actually a sign of hope. And I say that not to, get all, hopium here about the new Holy Father, giving him a chance, obviously, but the German bishops, the state of the Church in Germany, is cause of great concern for those of us who are concerned legitimately about the possibility of schism coming. And it failing schism, a formal schism anyway, de facto the Church has been in a state of schism for many years, but failing overt schism, then at least heresy left unchecked. That is a real concern that many of us have, and we should have real concern about that, because some of the German bishops are among the very worst bishops in the Church, and they have used their authority to push the more middling bishops who don't have the organization behind them to resist in their own countries. You saw this with the synodal votes going on in Germany during a couple years ago. You'd look at these roll call votes that would happen, and you would find that the heretics got their way, but not initially. They would always end up happening that the middling German bishops without a spine would kind of get pushed into supporting things. When you get more of these kind of bishops standing up who want clarity from the Holy Father, it implies that they're going to also be willing to submit to it as long as there's even the vaguest sense of sound teaching and doctrine contained in it. That's a good sign. Something that we, as more traditionally minded Catholics, should actually keep as a sign of hope for things to come. Now, I'm curious what you think about this. Are you that surprised that a German cardinal or a German bishop stepped forward and said, hey, this is actually not a bad thing? The sign of hope here, as opposed to a couple of different German bishops I've covered in the last week who were very clearly not happy with Pope Leo XIV and were not enthusiastic and were threatening to go forward with their ordination of the ladies anyway, regardless of what he might have to say about the matter. Let me know, what do you think about all this in the comments? Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps. Sharing this on social media helps a lot too. If you've ever thought about supporting the work we do here at Return to Tradition, options in the description box below. Patreon, subscribe star, all those kind of things, as well as the join button here on YouTube. Does help keep these daily messages coming. All those options were asked for by viewers like yourself, actually. As always, pray for the Church and for the Holy Father. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.